In the stellar queendom of Rhea, the Sisters of the Host do all they can to protect the hearts and lives of its people. Rhea, spanning most of the known galaxy, is beset by forces within and without who would drag all into oblivion and despair. Aliens of uncertain intent traverse the queendom's borders, all while internal hatred and distrust would tear the people apart, as older, fouler things in the darkness wait to see their plans birth a terrible future. The hosts are the creations of the Dreaming Queen, mystically and genetically endowed super soldiers that give heart and body to protect the Queen and her people. Come and join us for their stories. Greetings, subjects, and welcome back to Rose&Crescent, Blood and Sparkles. I'm your Royal Herald, aka your GM, Isaac, and of course Rose&Crescent is powered by Fabula Ultima. Let's greet our players. So, who you are, your character and host, and what is their most formative memory?
So, I'm JP. You can find me online as Evil Tendencies, and I play Petra of the Stalwart Grove. Her major formative memory was her first day of demolitions training.
Sounds like an explosively good time. What about the first day made it so especially formative?
Just the raw, unchecked aggression of an explosive kind of matches her very blunt personality and fighting style.
I can see the appeal. Very nice.
Hi, I'm Ira, and I play Alyssa Schneider of the Daughters of Harmony. And one of Alyssa's formative memories was building a ship model in a bottle in between reading chapters of Treasure Island. This memory and her excitement over it is one of the factors that influenced her interest in shipping and moving things around via vessels, thus getting her initial interest in logistics.
So here's a question, though. Is Treasure Island in the Queendom the same as Treasure Island in the real world?
You'd have to ask the GM.
Dang it, you're asking me for lore on the spot. It's almost like you're turning this around on me or something. Dang it.
Dang it, indeed.
Next one-shot, Treasure Island.
Very nice. Quest for the Queendom's gold. All right, Rin, your turn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rin, and I play Chiyako of the Silent Luminaries. As for her, probably most formative memory, it would be the time her friend failed as an initiate.
And how did this friend fail?
Her body just couldn't take the transition.
Very sad indeed. And for those wondering at home, as we've established, Sisters of the Hosts are transhuman super soldiers, and when one of them dies during the initiate process when they're going through their change, they're remembered as a fallen sister, rather than just necessarily a statistic. This is what happens when I actually have some lore prepared. So let's begin.
Previously on Rose&Crescent.
Our heroines fought off the mutant that accosted Torreas and Talia, and after a vivisection, they discovered that it was once human. With that unpleasant realization, they continued building their covers and digging into the criminal scene of Ikash. What's more, Hildy, a woman they had helped along the way, has been touched by the effects of the artifact they seek. Petra's waiting to get contacted by Molly. Alyssa is waiting to meet up with Mazza Dracon, one of our resident smuggler criminal types. And Chiyako and Danu just broke word to Hildy that something seems to have happened to her, and now she has some fresh new scars from a surgery she does not remember. So what are you going to do with Hildy now?
Well, if we want to learn more, we'll have to take a deeper look. Hildy, would you like to join us on the ship?
You have a ship? Her eyes go a bit wide. In apprehension, not necessarily wonderment, but there might be a little of that in there as well.
Her gaze flicks over to Danu. We should take her, yes?
I mean, we don't have the equipment here to do a proper scanning, so we would need to take her back to where we have our facilities.
Are you willing to go with us?
Well, I have my ship. Okay. Do we want to finish? You see her mind is going in different directions at once. She seems on one hand to try to make this normal, but on the other hand, she's definitely worried. Yarrick, we're getting our food to go, sweetie. Come on over. Can I stop by my home real quick?
Of course. I don't see why not.
Oh,
Would you like us to accompany you?
No. I'll meet you back here in, let's say, 20 minutes.
All right. I'll wait right here.
Hildy and Yarrick depart just as Kirk 1-1 is coming up with your food. He looks at you and goes, "So, should I pack this up?"
Yes, if you don't mind, please.
And he does that. 20 minutes later, true to what she said, Hildy returns with the to-go bag for both her and Yarrick. And from there, it's a quick jaunt over to your ship. Hildy is looking at your ship. She doesn't deal with military vessels very often, so she is a bit drawn in by it. Yarrick is just like, oh, this is amazing, and starts running up the gangplank, almost running into Jax. Whoa there, Half Pint, he says.
Careful, Yarrick. Jax, we have temporary guests.
Oh, good. Wouldn't want you to be starting making a collection or anything.
That's not until next month.
He's not entirely sure where you're going with that, or whether or not you're serious, so he'll just be like, oh yeah, I guess I'll clear quarters for them or something, and he walks off. Not too long after that, Jax comes back, and should I take the energetic one to their quarters?
What do you say, Hildy? Would you like Yark to stay with us, or would you like him to be occupied?
She leans down and says, all right, Yark, Mommy has to go get some checkups done by our friends here. Why don't you go to the quarters, look around, and just mind yourself while Mommy's getting looked over. At which point,
No
Yark...
snooping, and don't use the code 667.
Right, he says, and he tries to wink in such a way that Mom can't see him, but she can see him. From there, Jax says, come on, ankle biter, and as they're departing, you hear him asking, hey, can I see your gun? No. Can I see your helmet? Maybe later, and goes off from there.
I love children.
When you say that, Danu just kind of like pats your head and ruffles your hair. And from there, you shuffle Hildy into the med bay and begin your examinations. What's your bedside manner like?
First, while they're heading towards the medical facility, Chiyako wants to discreetly converse with Danu about whether or not they should reveal their host status or not, considering they are still both under their holographic-y, illusion-y selves.
Danu communicates back to you through the coronet. I'm inclined to keep it hidden for now, personally. She's already kind of going through a lot, and throwing that on top of that might... We don't know what we're dealing with. Keeping her in the dark probably is best for now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, what if she sees us in our proper forms and some unknown trigger in her implant turns her into a thing? A not fun thing.
You know, I hadn't thought about that. I can always ask Alyssa if that might have been what triggered the monster, or if she heard the monster first and then found it. I don't know. I need to ask more about the monster. I need to do more stuff to the monster's body.
We've kind of done all the stuff we can do to the monster's body right now.
I mean, for now. There's probably more stuff later. I just haven't thought of it yet.
Right. Switching back into verbal communication, let's get you looked at. And it goes from there. While this is going on, Alyssa and Petra, you are staying the course with your previously stated actions?
That is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty then. So the next day is done with a bunch of scanning, some probing. At one point, Danu asks if it's okay if she does a little bit of a biopsy. Hildy freaks out a little bit, but you guys manage to calm her down, and she's okay with a sample being taken.
Perfectly okay. Danu's the best.
Yeah, I once had a comrade who lost both legs, 1.5 arms, and I still managed to put them back together right as rain. So, you'll be fine. At which point Hildy's just like, okay, I assume you're helping Danu, so I'm going to have you do the insight and insight roll to get a better idea of what's going on.
Do you want me to have any modifiers?
She's cooperating, so I'll give you a +1. And it's an open check.
That is a 9.
That's good. With a closer examination, you do see that there's the implant, there's the healed scar tissue, and this thing is thoroughly, though not necessarily deftly integrated with her nervous system. And at the moment, it seems to be in a standby state. And going further, as I said, it's integrated with her nervous system. Much like you saw in the mutant, you do see traces of metal lines going through her body, although in this case, they're very thin, and so they're not noticeable from an exterior view.
What do you think? Can you get rid of it?
I'd basically have to dig through her entire nervous system at this point. That is an operation that would take days and a lot of painkillers, and there's still a chance that she might die from the process.
Yeah, but if something doesn't happen, she might get turned into one of those things.
Yep. The better option would simply be to deactivate the implant, or at the very least leave it in such a state as to be in a permanent standby mode. But fiddling with that, I'd want some more information and do some more scans on it before I even try manipulating it directly, considering how it's integrated.
Perhaps we can use the one in the creature. where we found. Get a better idea of how it functions, since it's no longer attached to something that can attack back.
Yeah, I'll do some comparisons. For now, though, why don't we just have her go to her quarters?
All right, will do.
So, as you escort Hildy back to her quarters, you see Jax running by. Have you seen the kid?
Did you lose him already?
I like to think that he lost me.
I have not seen him. However, I have found that he likes to crawl through vents.
I'll just make my life harder, why don't you? Thank you. And he dashes off.
Don't worry, Jax, I'll find him.
Well, he can't get too far. I just hope he doesn't wander into, I don't know, some kind of venting system and get himself vaporized.
Oh, I doubt anything like that would happen. The sensors would pick him up.
That's reassuring. Bouncing over to Petra and Alyssa, it has been a day, and so your contacts are going to get a hold of you. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
So Petra, as I recall, Molly did not get a means to contact you directly for safety's sake, so I assume you would check back at her place every once in a while?
Well, she told me to come back in 3 days, yeah?
Right, yes. Come back in a couple days.
So in a couple days, I will go back. Just walk through the sort of ratty curtain on the damaged door and look around in the darkness and see if I can, or the dim light, and see if I can find her.
You look around, she's at the bar, tending it, cleaning a glass with a surprisingly clean towel despite the rest of the establishment. She looks up and waves you over.
Now, I still look like a angry-looking bald man with a missing left eye, and I'm not going to do the mild Cockney accent, but he's got it. I would end up sounding Russian. Yeah. So I go up, said come back in a couple days. Here I am.
Ah, good. You can follow instructions. Always a good first start.
Petra just cocks an eyebrow.
A lot of folks come through here with big ideas and bigger egos to match.
Ego's not got nothing to do with it. I do a job, I get paid.
Well, good for you. I have someone who wants to possibly talk to you about that. Go on through the back, and she indicates with her head to go behind the bar into the back area.
So Petra is going to look around and kind of keeping an eye out to make sure no one's going to try and come up behind her as she goes into this more secluded space, and then follow the instructions back.
A couple of the folks there that are in the exact same spot that they were when you were there previously look at you and then go back to their drinks. And you head to the back. There's the kitchen, there's the stock room, and just a short ways beyond that is a larger area, and it seems to be appropriately lit. And in that room, looking at his personal data codex, is a man, about a few inches shorter than your projected appearance, with short-cropped, greasy hair. He looks up at you and goes, "Ah, you're the one Molly mentioned. The one with the constitution of an ox and an undeniable aura, so to speak." He starts looking you up and down, circling you a little bit.
Petra cocks an eyebrow. He's like going all around, looking her up and down.
"Yep,
Do you want to check my teeth too?
maybe next time," he says.
Maybe not.
Anicius Celis.
All right, Mr. Celis, you have work for me?
I possibly do. As I said, he seemed to be built tough, and Molly gave you a recommendation. I generally trust her instincts. However, your recent buffoonery makes me wonder a little bit.
Buffoonery?
Going up to a couple men, calling them wankers, and then running off?
Yes.
Why?
Is this a job interview, or do you simply have work for me?
Oh, I have work. I just need to make sure that any antics aren't going to mess with things.
Let's just say that me and the gentleman had an arrangement.
Roll me willpower and insight, please.
A 14.
Oh, very nice. He looks at you. Well, you certainly don't lack for an intimidating presence. All right, I'm going to be picking up some possible goods, and I want to take you along. After all, it always does to have a little bit of muscle on hand when dealing with less than legal things. And from there, I had the thought, do you prefer to work alone or in groups? He asks.
I prefer to work alone, although I'm capable of working with competent people.
Interesting. And what kind of personal qualms do you have about the work you do?
I better be paid for it.
Good. Have you heard of a mercenary group called the Void Dragons?
Here and there. I couldn't say that we ran in the same circles, but, of course I've heard the name.
Well, it seems they've suffered a major loss of personnel recently, and those people who weren't on hand when said loss of personnel occurred are looking to rebuild. So, do a few jobs with me, and if you do a good job, I'll pass you along to them. How does that sound? And don't worry, you'll get paid for the few jobs you do with me.
Sure, we can try it out.
Well, all right then. First job will be in about 30 minutes. Get your gear, meet me back here.
I have my gear. I came ready to work.
Lovely. Well, in that case, give me your communications frequency. I'll give you mine, and we will get going.
Now, Loremaster, a quick question for you. The tech that we would be using to do communications, would it be accurate to say that I would be using my tactical tiara?
Combat coronet.
Yes. Like I said, the tactical tiara.
Sigh.
To do the actual communication, and I would have like a dummy, almost like a dummy phone shell to make it look like I didn't have it, have the coronet.
That sounds fair.
All right. So Petra pulls out her dummy communicator and sends him not like one of her main frequencies, but one of the more common ones that she doesn't do encrypted stuff with much.
All right. Then he sends you his frequency, and you two are off to the races. As you are heading over to your destination, are you going to try to get information out of him, or is this strictly playing the part and waiting later?
She's playing the part of a professional, and a professional in this situation, I'm imagining, doesn't ask too many questions, but they ask a couple just to make sure that they're prepared. But before I do that, I'm going to open a private and covert link to Alyssa.
All right, Alyssa, you're at the rec center, just kind of hanging out. It's almost time for your meeting with Maza when you get a ping from Petra.
Talk to me.
I'm with Anicius Celis. Apparently there's a silent P in that name. And I am going to have a small conversation with him about a job, and then I fill her in on kind of what he's told me so far. I want you to hear what he's saying, but I also am hoping you can grab a voice print and maybe an ID and do your accounting magic to see if we can find out any more about him. He says he might be able to get me into the Void Dragons.
Not sure how valuable that'd be, given that someone recently wrecked their entire organization, but...
Yeah, he did mention that.
Alright. Feed me the conversation, I'll see if I can pull anything from it.
So, Mr. Celis.
Yes?
We're going to meet somebody and move some things, yes?
That's the plan.
How much subtlety are you going to want on this?
Well, for this one, you're mostly there to take point and look intimidating, and then be off to the side ready to act while I do the talking.
How am I going to know when you want me to act?
If it looks like they're about to draw on them, don't necessarily shoot. Just counter them so I can try to talk things out, and then if things can't be talked out, I'll give you the signal.
Which will be?
He does a hand gesture at you.
Collateral damage, buildings, civilians, anything like that. Is that a concern of yours?
At the moment, yes. I do business here frequently. I don't want to mess it up too badly.
Understood. Alyssa, she says quietly or privately, is that enough to get what you need?
It's not much, but I'll see if I can find something.
Keep me apprised. And, thank you.
With that, you continue on your way. Alyssa, if you want to do Insight and Insight with a +2 bonus.
Sure. All right, 10.
So you access the local data network, do some digging, try to do some voice matching. One Anicius Celis is not an official legal resident of Ikash. However, they do appear in the periphery of some warden reports, as well as some local gossip. They're a fixer of sorts, from what you've been able to gather. And if you're looking for a direct connection between them and the Void Dragons, they are not officially part of the Void Dragons, but the Void Dragons have made use of his services on more than one occasion, from what you've been able to gather, including relatively recently.
So the Void Dragons hire him?
Indeed. Any further additional questions from there, or...?
Is that his actual name?
It is the name he is known by. As someone seemingly not from Ikash originally, there are no other names on record.
Can I, via accent or general dialect, get some general idea of where he might be from?
Listening to him, you're not a native to the Kypernian Reach, so accents are a bit difficult for you. However, judging by some of what he says, you suspect he might have spent a lot of time on Nagara, which is a major world in the Reach, and is the planet that Ikash is technically under the jurisdiction of. So basically, he seems to be from a major planet who is doing business in a minor associated planet.
I see. How long does Alicia have before her quote-unquote meeting for the trade of goods?
At this moment right now, after doing the digging and Petra going off to wherever it is she's going with Anicius, you have 10 minutes?
Then this is going to have to do. Not a lot of time to do much with that.
And I assume you feed that information back to Petra.
She will send it back to her.
Excellent. So he's just a go-between toady, little fish, big pond kind of thing. I'm going to also get on the Tom then to Chiyako.
Hello.
I have a job that might end up in shooting, and it's to get in good with a guy who might get me into the Void Dragons. Are you free?
Not at the moment, but I can be.
So I'm going to send the coordinates of where we're walking to Chiyako. I know you got your thing. If you got to do your thing, do your thing. If you want to come around and put some eyeballs on what's going on and maybe run interference for me so I don't have to do something I don't want to do, that would be appreciated.
All right. I'll be there as soon as I can.
Oh, good.
All right, Alyssa, you go back to Mazadracon's shop, and she goes, good, there you are, punctual. I like that.
I don't like my time being wasted, and I assume such a courtesy for others.
Oh, very nice. Aren't you sweet? All right, come with me.
She will.
So, we're going to the private bay that a lot of business folks around here like to use. You have the goods, I assume.
I have them organized and ready to drop off when the time is right.
We have a buyer. We're going to go finalize a few details and then hand over the goods.
All right.
Petra, you and Anicius arrived first. Looking at it, you think during the early days it might have been a secondary docking bay back when Ikash was much smaller and first being built. It looks a bit run down, but the vital systems seem to be being kept in order. Not a lot of people here, definitely no customs as it were, but it seems to be a good, solid place to do less than sordid business. And it's as you're taking this in, you see Alyssa walking up with whom you believe is Mazadracon, based off what Alyssa has told you.
You just hear Petra chuckling over the comms quietly.
Alicia will choose to ignore that.
Bouncing over to Chiyako, you open the door, getting ready to go, when at the bottom of the gangplank seems to be a short, mousy-looking man in overalls, clean overalls, looking up at you going, "Oh, yes, hello. I have a message for you from the Foremans."
A message for me or for someone specific?
For the special operatives on the ship?
Very well. Speak your message and I shall relay it.
Yes. In that case, you are hereby instructed to release the employee and her son into the Ikash's foreman's custody.
The Ikash's foreman's custody?
Yes.
What does that mean?
You're supposed to hand them over to the foreman's representative, aka myself. Although if you think she is dangerous, I have wardens nearby ready on hand.
What do you mean, dangerous?
He looks confused at your confusion, or seeming confusion.
I just invited a friend over for dinner.
That is not the information we have received. Please present her, or I'm going to have the wardens go in and escort her out themselves.
I see. Would you like to step inside?
He looks at you a bit suspiciously. How are you presenting yourself?
Even though she is still wearing her disguise, she is all smiles.
Make me a willpower and insight check, please.
That is going to be a 9.
All right, that is enough. He sees your smile but doesn't see the general glint of your eyes. And so he taps something on his data codex. A couple of wardens from nearby come up to the gangplank and follow up after him as he goes inside following you.
Chiyako is going to send a message with her tactical tiara to let others know that we have guests and who they are. While she goes to report to Danu. She wants these people watched.
A little, what would you say the word is, Lisa? Occupied in an interesting situation?
Continue.
Lisa is going to continue to ignore the incoming messages.
Oh, Chiyako's not sending it to them. She's sending it to others on the ship because she's on the ship.
Gotcha.
Makes a lot more sense.
Apologies.
All right, as you enter the ship, everyone is polite but definitely keeping an eye out. Where do you lead our Mr. Representative man?
She's going to lead them to a very basic, briefing room where they can just sit and chill while a couple of host sisters stand watch over them and keep them company, all charming like.
Alright, so you're essentially taking them hostage.
No, not at all. She invited them on the ship, and she's taking them to a briefing room. But she's not going to let them be there alone. It's their ship after all.
Okay, so you're just going to try to keep them there until what?
She's going to relay the message that they request she relayed. So she's going to go personally to Danu.
You get them into the briefing room. They're there waiting. And you go to Danu. I assume you relayed everything to her.
Yes.
Well, that is unusual, and I don't like the idea of sending her off. We don't know what she could do.
That is correct. And we didn't tell anyone that she was particularly dangerous or that we feared of such. So them coming here saying such a thing is odd to me. I do wonder if she let them know that she was coming here ahead of time.
I mean, it's possible.
They also want her boy with them, too.
That is a bit unusual, considering that the first time she disappeared, the boy was essentially left unsupervised.
I don't like it.
I don't
like it at all.
So we can keep them distracted, but we can only keep them distracted so long, says Danu.
I need to know if she told them anything before she joined us here.
Alright, well, she's in the quarters if you want to go give her a talk to.
Chiyako's gonna do just that, and also give a quick message to Jax and see if he found the kiddo yet.
Jax pings back to you. Yeah, I got the kid. We're currently in the shuttle bay. He's running around looking at all the shuttles.
Okay, keep him occupied. Some greasy higher-ups have come here wanting him and his mother. We're not too sure about them yet.
Try not to damage them too badly, he says.
I would never. And she goes to find the mother.
So, Hildy is in the quarters, going over some reading material. She doesn't get a lot of new material, so this is an interesting opportunity for her. And what name did you give Hildy when you were introducing yourself?
I think she would have made something up. Let's see. Something somewhat familiar. Let's go with Coco.
As you enter the room, she looks up, puts the codex down. Oh, Coco. What are the results?
We're still working on that. However, something else came up. There are some people here for you and your son. They really don't want you on the ship with us. Did you tell anyone where you were going before you joined us here?
Oh, well, I let my supervisors know I was going to be able to make it in. They asked me what I was doing. I told them I was getting looked at by some traveling medical personnel for a personal issue, and left it at that. Roll me insight and insight.
That is going to be a 13.
Very good. She's telling the truth from what you can gather. However, she is holding something back.
Okay, is there anything else? Because they're saying something slightly different.
Well, what are they saying?
They're saying that they're here to take you and your son away, and that if we think you're possibly dangerous, they're prepared to put you somewhere.
Oh, well, that can't be right, she says. Maybe they're saying that for your sake, she says.
Why would they say that for my sake? I don't think you're dangerous.
Well, that's because he... And then she cuts herself off.
LD, we're trying to help you.
She gets an apprehensive look on her face, rubs her hands together. I did tell my supervisors that I was going to get looked at. I also may have told Yarick's father where I was going, because after I disappeared the last time, I thought it best to let him know so as not to worry him again.
Is your husband someone higher up?
Well, he's not my husband.
Right, apologies. Is he someone higher up?
Yes.
Oh. He's gonna relay this information to Danu, and then ask if she should just outright tell Hildy what's going on with her and why she needed to get looked at.
You hear a long, tired sigh come from Danu's end. Oh, that's hard, she says. I guess that depends on whether or not you want to tell whoever is trying to get her.
I think whoever's trying to get her knows exactly what's going on. They mentioned that if we have her here because we think she's dangerous, they have wardens prepared to take her. My impulse says tell her, but I don't know if that would be appropriate.
I can see rationales for either way. I say we trust your gut.
As she's conversing, she just looks like she's pondering to herself quietly to Heldy. Would you like to know what's going on with that new scarring and the need for the checkup?
I would like that, yes. I must admit not knowing has been very constricting on me.
All right. Didn't particularly want to worry you until we had more information, and especially didn't want to worry you in front of Yark. So we were investigating the missing people, of which you are one, and it seems missing people are being implanted with something that is connecting to your nervous system and has the possibility of turning you into something very bad and dangerous.
She laughs nervously and goes, "Oh, that's a good one. Tell me another," she says.
Taking this quite well. Okay, so we fought someone that had actually turned into the bad and dangerous thing. It was not a great experience, and I don't think it's reversible if the change happens, but I don't know that 100% yet.
She's just like, no. I'm not a monster.
No, you're not.
I'm an administrative clerk.
You are not a monster. However, whoever took you is trying to make you into one. And that's why, apparently, the father of your boy and maybe some other higher-up people have people waiting to take you away.
But Voden wouldn't want to lock me up. He must just want to put me somewhere where he can keep us safe. And as she says Voden, you recall that Voden is actually one of the foremen that run this planet.
Oh, boy. Well, we could try this in a maybe I take you to them and you let them know that you are fine where you're at here and want to continue getting testing and whatnot. And then we can see if we can help you in some way. Or do you want to go with them?
I mean, I trust Voden. He's probably just saying dangerous in order to keep the ruse up, and she looks like she's on the verge of hyperventilating.
Chiyako's gonna step forward and take her hands and look her in the eyes. Focus on me. Don't drift off into your thoughts. You need to stay in the present. You need to think through this. It's going to be okay.
She looks at you. She's trying to get her breathing under control. She starts trying to match her breathing to yours. Eventually she does calm down, although maybe in an attempt to distract herself. You don't know, but she goes, "Why do your hands feel so big?" And at that, we'll cut back over to Petra and Alyssa. Maza and Anicius are discussing details, going over the finer points. Both of you roll me insight and willpower.
Open roll modifiers.
Open roll.
A 12.
10.
Alright, neither of you are mystics, but even you are getting an odd vibe off of this place. It's a touch distracting, and as you're thinking that, Maza says, "If you could present the goods, dear?"
I'm not presenting the goods until I have a lockdown deal. I can't just move things around without people noticing them.
I misunderstood where we were at in that. My apologies, dear. At that point, Anicius is, "For that amount of weaponry, I can get you 30 units of kelatine." Alyssa would know that kelatine is a form of recreational drugs, a more potent one that's made from refined industrial runoff. Or I can get you about 5,000 of the local currency. Getting it converted into royal marks for off-planet use would be up to you, of course.
30 units will barely last me half of the rest of the tour. I'll take the marks.
All right. Be back here in a day.
6 rifles?
That should do it.
That'll do.
And as this is going on, what is Petra up to? Just being the muscle, or is her attention going elsewhere?
She's looking around. The feel of this place doesn't sit right. And she's also wants to make sure there's not a third party waiting to ambush us.
All right, roll me another insight and insight.
A 15.
So you're looking around this place, you don't like the vibe, you're keeping an eye out for malicious third parties. And while you don't notice any malicious third parties, you do notice that what few people are here seem to be avoiding an area in the back.
Hey, Alyssa, let's say over our private comm channel.
Yeah, Alyssa ignores that.
Make a note of the place 15 meters to your back right side, to your 5 o'clock. Something weird's going on there.
Alyssa gives no feedback.
And at that, Mazza says, all right, well, business seems to be concluded for now. We'll head out first. Have a pleasant day, Mr. Salas. And to you as well, Miss Dracon.
Of course.
And Alyssa and Mazza leave first. Well, a bit dull, but profitable nonetheless, I should say.
Business is often less than exciting. I'd be in a different profession if I was seeking excitement.
Indeed, that's why I only sell, don't do the jobs. Is Alyssa going to try to pump Mazza for information, or...?
Yes. Under the cover of needing to know things as part of getting the weapons off the ship, bluntly, Alyssa wants to basically see if she can weasel out information about this weird monster problem going on.
All right. Oh, you heard about that, did you?
Well, someone, as you may be aware, the ship has a sister on it, and apparently they ran into one of them, so...
You know, I had heard that.
Right across the ship.
You know, I had heard about that, but I figured that was just Talia wishing she had had a different life. But still, monsters are bad for business, unless they're good for business, considering what we do.
Well, they're bad for me, because I have to smuggle... I cannot just walk around with weapons that I have no explanation for why I have them. So I have to smuggle them to a location where I keep them, and then I hand over the location as part of the deal. And if I'm just going to go through a back alley and stumble to some tentacle monster or something, that's going to be a problem.
Well, no one likes a tentacle monster, I'll admit.
I hope not.
Oh yes, everyone take a Fabula point up to this point. We can set up a drop-off location for the goods. If you're worried about getting attacked, I would suggest bringing in some help. Now, I can give you a good location that I know to be safe, but this monster phenomenon is recent, and if they're smart, they're probably using the underway to get around.
The underway?
When Ikash was first being built, there was the initial infrastructure, and then as Ikash was expanded, it was expanded on. It became underneath everything else. And because it wasn't needed, it got sealed up, and you hear tell of individuals using it for smuggling, hiding out from the wardens, exploring, looking for possibly left behind goods, although I would not recommend doing that.
And now suddenly there's monsters wandering around there, popping up at the surface and harassing people?
As I said, if these monsters are smart, they're using the underway to get around.
Would probably explain how they're ambushing people. You have nothing to do with it? You don't have the ability to prevent making sure they don't show up?
I'm a seller. I'm not head of a gang. I'm not head of a mercenary group. I can put in a word with a few people who do know. Like Inicius over there, he operates as a fixer for mercenary groups and other individuals. I can get you his frequency if you want to maybe hire that new face that he brought with him.
I don't. When I hire for security, I don't hire random strangers off the street.
Generally not the best idea, fair.
Also, I'm going to be blunt, the guy looked like he was tweaking.
Nice.
Take another Fabula point for that.
Regardless, I'll just work out my own security arrangement.
That's the most economic approach.
Alright, well, I better be heading off. If I'm seeing too much hang out with the local organizer of events, people might start asking questions.
Yeah, you make me sound like a disreputable sort, she says with a smile.
I'm just a humble outsider spending the recreation on the streets. Who am I to know what your reputation is? See you tomorrow.
Bye now, dear. And Petra, are you quiet on the way back with Inicius? Or are you also trying to get any additional information out of him?
So far, she's been playing herself off as a professional, no questions asked kind of person. I, as a player, can't think of anything that I would need from him that I could reasonably already know about. So I'm just going to be quiet on the way back and make sure we don't get jumped.
All right, back over to Chiyako. So after taking some time to consider, Hildy says, we'll tell them that something's going on and that you're here to help and that I'm perfectly fine and that they don't have to worry. I'm not going to say anything. Okay. You take Hildy to the briefing room, and there's the representative there, and he goes, yes, you are Miss Hildy. Please collect your son, and we'll be taking you into our custody. To which she says, tell your superior that I'm fine, I am safe and contained here, that there is some issues going on that they are best equipped to help me with. He looks Hildy up and down, considers for a second, and says, considering we're here to take you into custody, this request has no grounds. You will be coming with us. Danu gives you a look, Chiyako.
If she does not want to go, she does not have to go.
Roll me a willpower and willpower roll.
I don't like willpower and willpower.
Does she get a bonus for being a manic pixie assassin girl?
I'll give you a +1 on
You
that.
don't. Ooh, okay. That's an 8.
Unfortunately, that's not going to be enough.
Would it be alright if I used my lucky 7?
I'm not going to stop you.
I'm going to trade that 1 for a 7 and turn it into a 13. Or 14, rather, because you gave me the +1.
You stare him down. He's initially not going to bend, but whether it's your fierceness, your underlying craziness, or maybe the fact that you're using a little bit of mystic power in this, but he goes, very well, I will relay your intent to my superiors, and we will proceed from there, he says. Let's go, he says to the wardens, and they depart, but not without giving each of you a second.
Thank you for your cooperation, and have a wonderful day.
As you say. Once they're gone, Danu says, well, that was sticky.
Healthy, I don't like them.
Well, you know, bureaucrats are always a bit of a gamble, I'll admit.
Did you happen to recognize any of them?
The wardens know. The representative, his name is Olaf. He's an assistant's assistant. I think he's Voden's assistant's assistant.
Okay, so a little gopher man. Got it.
At that, she kind of chuckles a little bit. Oh, and I'm just imagining him popping his head out of the ground.
Now I am too. That's wonderful.
Danu suppresses a smirk. With that little crisis averted for now, what do folks wish to do at this point?
Chiyako is going to relay what happened to the others, informing them that our guest is connected to the council, and not exactly in the best of ways.
You know, if the council just happened to be at the site of a random gas explosion, that might solve a lot of problems.
We're not blowing up the ruling council.
Hey, you finally got her to respond.
I mean, technically, we'd be blowing up the gas.
Regardless,
Hey, it's just an idea.
what is the council's members' interest in our guest?
Well, he's the father of her child, and he knows that she's infected with whatever the cyber monster turning thing is. He wanted her in custody.
What did he charge her with?
The possibility of being dangerous.
The possibility of being dangerous is a description of the entire sapient species. You have to be a little more precise than that.
All they said was, we're going to take her. And I said, she doesn't want to go. And I won.
Well, regardless, this monster phenomena is curious. Chiyako, you said you sensed the corruption of the artifact we're seeking, right?
Yes, I sensed it everywhere.
So
I
we can
couldn't
suspect
pinpoint it.
we can suspect that somehow the artifact is involved in this.
Absolutely. I could almost guarantee it. I think it's more controlled now, considering how that monster was created and what we've seen inside Hildy. Her entire nervous system has wiring attached to it now.
Wiring, like someone put cybernetics into her body?
I'll send you what we got. And she's gonna forward files with images of the chip that was placed in her, how, like, thin metal, like, veins are practically grafted onto her nerves. On its own, in a very chaotic state, we get what happened to the leader of the Void Dragons. But in a more controlled, apparently refined state, we get this.
Yes, Alyssa, you're looking at this, and according to the data and the images, the way it's interlaced through her nerves, if you didn't know it wasn't supposed to be there, you'd say this was normal looking.
Oh, some type of bioorganic tech was run through this person to make all this work?
It does look like that, yes. From what you know of cybernetics and from looking at it, this level of integration would only normally happen if she had been implanted as a young child, like infant or newborn, and had, decades to grow and integrate.
And we're confident that wasn't the case here?
Everything would seem to indicate yes.
Well, presumably the artifact is here, and presumably it was handed off to someone who wanted it and is now using it. Tomorrow, we will have strong evidence of a certain coordinator activities at this settlement committing a rather serious crime, and we'll have perhaps the leverage needed to get her to perhaps negotiate for some leniency.
So you folks wait out the day then?
That's the plan, assuming the council doesn't send someone else over.
So you wait out the day. Chiyako, inside an insight check, not open.
That is going to be an 8.
As the day goes by, you check in on Hildy a few times, and you get the impression that the stress of all this is getting to her, and you notice that she's been scratching at the back of her head quite a bit.
Hildy, are you alright?
Oh, this is just a lot, I could be turning into something, and Vodin tried to get me in that way, which I think I understand why he's doing it, but it's still not great, and Mr. Gopherman is probably not going to tell the story well. It's just quite a lot. And then trying to make sure Yarick doesn't find out.
Yeah, that is a lot. Is there anything I can do?
I don't know, turn back time and make sure I didn't get grabbed in the first place?
If I had that ability, I would be more than happy to use it for that reason.
She chuckles. Thank you. I think at this point I just want to sleep.
Well, if you want, would you like to sleep in the bunks here? Or would you like to sleep in medical and maybe for peace of mind, be under observation?
Let's go with that, I guess.
Alright.
So at that, Danu comes in. At that point, Hildy calls Yarick in, explains that Mommy needs to rest for a little bit, and asks, could Jax continue to watch him? He seems to really like Jax. Oh, he's great to play with, says Yarick.
I don't see why not. I'm sure he wouldn't mind being the new and improved playmate for Yarick.
You hear a "aww" in the communicator.
She responds back, don't you yaw me. You will play with this child and you will like it.
Yes, ma'am. And with that...
He agrees and he's so happy.
Yay, says Yarick. And so Hildy is shuffled into medbay, given a sedative, and put under observation. You have a day before the drop-off and the pickup when you plan on capturing Anicius. How do you want to go about it, or how do you want to plan it?
Petra looks at the other two. I'm assuming that you're saying that we shouldn't have any casualties.
We shouldn't.
That's a bummer. But you can see just the slightest hint of a smile when she says it.
Any other questions?
Do we have a map of the area?
Not immediately, but you can get one readily enough.
I think we should get a map of the area, get possibly a 3D markup of it so that we know exactly where we are, and then work on booby-trapping the area around where we're supposed to be.
You were promised aid by the foreman and those under them, so they can get you the data required.
And can we access that via our helmets?
You can have that data fed to your helmets, yes. So what is your plan?
So, assuming there are no further questions, let us review the plan. The operation will be simple. The two parties will meet to conduct the deal. Once they have conducted the deal, the raid will be triggered, and all individuals will be arrested and captured. We will drag them back to the ship, and using the dead-to-right evidence we have against this clearly illegal transaction, we will then use that as leverage to negotiate down a punishment in return for information about the smuggling of the artifact.
Sounds good. I should get out there and start planting some distractions this evening so that nobody sees them tomorrow. And then keep an eye on it to make sure no one else is trying to do the same thing.
Do I have any particular role in this? Or am I just one of the crew busting you guys?
That is a good question. Will you be appearing as yourselves, or will you be bringing in a group of normal human forces for this raid?
Do we need anybody other than the three of us?
Technically, no, but it just depends on how...
How many people are we arresting?
At least one?
Well,
you don't know.
at least.
At least one, but you don't know how much muscle Anicius is going to bring with him.
I guess the question is, how much do we want to tip our hand about who's doing what here and the presence of the host on the planet?
It might be advantageous to make the raid look like a traditional police action.
Okay. Do we have mortal crew on board like mortal fighters on board?
Mortal.
Yes, you can in fact requisition a group of the onboard aerials to pose as wardens for this police action.
That sounds good. I think Danu should stay on the ship, just so that we're not leaving it in the hands of a normal human crew entirely. So the three of us plus a squad of aerials.
I will say, the enlisted of the Queendom military are very competent and capable individuals.
Absolutely. But against the monsters that we were facing, I'm kind of thinking if they send another one our way, I want Danu to be able to at least lead them.
I've personally seen no evidence that high-velocity rounds will not do what it does to most organics, but if you must be paranoid...
Paranoia is healthy in small doses.
It is by definition not. Any other questions before we start prepping for tomorrow's operation?
Yes. Am I trying to arrest both of you? One is a bodyguard, the other is a smuggler. Naughty, naughty.
As far as they are aware, I will be part of the criminal deal, thus I should be arrested alongside them.
I guess maybe the question is, do I need my cover to remain intact, or are we dispensing with that?
I don't know. When I asked you for intel on what you were doing, you elected to share none of it, so I do not know what exactly you would be burning if you burned it.
She's right, you were pretty tight-lipped.
It's called operational security.
Keeping people in the bloody loop.
That too, yeah. Okay, so I basically have established myself as a local mercenary for hire, somebody who's tough, capable, and grumpy. I went to Molly's place. She set me up with Anicius. Both of them think that I am this sort of amoral badass. I don't know how far beyond that the reputation extends. That's where I stand right now. Look, I get it. I know I'm a bit of a blunt instrument, and that's fine. So if you have some suggestions as to how I should proceed with this cover, I'm willing to entertain them, obviously. I personally don't much like this kind of skulking around. I would like to drop it, but if we need it, we need it.
A bodyguard not showing up could potentially create shifts in behavior that could come to compromise the operation. I would prefer it if you were there. That being said, once the arrests are being made, I'm not entirely sure your cover will be necessary.
Well, if we're going to keep my cover, let's just keep my cover.
So be it.
I think the aerials will be able to handle things just fine.
Chiyako, you will be operations leader.
So does that mean
You lead the
I'm
squad.
at the front? I'm at the front taking you down. Okay, cool. Cool.
Oh no, she's become corrupt with power.
No.
So you begin your preparations at this point. In that case, Petra, I'm going to need a dexterity and insight roll from you to place the necessary explosives.
Does my formative experience of starting my demolition training provide any bonuses to this?
I'll give you a +1 in this instance.
A 9.
Very good. I will make a note of that.
Wait, got a 6 and a 2. I am not going to keep that. I'm going to spend a fabula point since I don't want to hoard them. I'm going to re-roll that D8.
Sounds like a plan. Give it a go.
This is going to be the no distractions, only war identity. Okay, so that came up with a 6. So with the 6 on the other die, that's 12. And with the +1 bonus, that is 13.
Even better. So Petra goes off to skulk and sneak and set.
I think that was a critical.
It does in fact become a critical, yes. In that case, you have an opportunity, Petra. What would you like to spend it on?
Yeah, I think I wanted to do a plot twist. Can we say that Anicius had lookouts and scouts in the area that he was expecting to be able to call upon, and that I found them and neutralized them in the process of setting these, so that he's off his guard, or he's off foot when we actually do this?
So you're skulking and sneaking as said before, and as you're going about, you notice that you weren't the only one who wanted to make sure the area in question was suited to their needs. And you see the wankers.
So I'm going to try to sneak up on them. Then I'm just going to say in a matter-of-fact voice, "You two really are wankers."
And what are you hoping to elicit with this? Get them angry and shooting so you can take them out, or have them take each other out?
Scare them so that I can be able to take them into custody.
Roll me, in this case, willpower and willpower.
A 10, but not a critical.
You sneak up behind them and say your line, at which point they turn, and you're trying to scare them, so I assume you're a looming shadow, just kind of like gazing at them and judging them for their actions?
With a gun, yes.
With a very big gun, yes. They look up at you, they look at each other. One of them says, "Hi, do you ever think that maybe you've made the wrong choices in life?" The other one turns to him and says, "This is neither the time nor the place, Jason." At which point they run away, not screaming, but they are definitely furtive in how they extricate themselves from the scene.
Before they do that, I'm going to be like, point my gun at them. I didn't say you could leave.
They stop, put their hands up, turn around.
Let's go have a talk. Come on. And I'm going to lead them back to the ship.
They drop their weapons and you herd them back to the ship. You have them in holding. What do you do with Wanker 1 and Wanker 2?
Just let them argue.
They end up spending the rest of the night bickering back and forth. As I said, this is neither the time nor the place. Well, we have nowhere else to go, so we might as well talk about it now. We do not need to talk about our life decisions right now. And goes from there. At one point, they get into a bit of a fist fight, but eventually they tucker themselves out, and by about 4 a.m. local time, they're just kind of strewn on the floor of holding. Not sure if they're unconscious or asleep, but either way, they're out.
So I will go back with what little time I have remaining and continue setting the trap, and then try and get back to the ship before sunlight.
That's easy enough. Chiyako, I assume you check in with the squad of aerials you're going to be taking with you?
Yeah, we'll go over the map and the points of entry where Petra would have put the traps for us to potentially herd people, so on and so forth.
Well, the aerials are seasoned auxiliaries at this point, so they know their business and they know how to fight with a host sister, so you don't think they're going to be any trouble. Is Alyssa doing anything?
Alyssa is packing the quote-unquote merchandise into a bag.
And the time of the raid occurs. Alyssa, you drop off your stuff at the designated point in the out-of-the-way corridor that's being used. Not long after, the Anisia shows up with 5 guys, not counting Petra. He sends one of them over to get the goods.
You don't touch the merchandise until you own it. Where's your payment?
Just checking that the goods are there. One moment.
They're there when you have the pay.
Are they in there? At which point the man, looks in the bag, nods back at him. Very well. At which point he pulls out his codex, presses some buttons, and you get a ping on your system saying that the marks have been transferred.
That concludes the business, I assume.
Indeed. At which point the man who was looking in the bag slings it over his shoulder. If you're ever this way again, feel free to stop by and do some more business, says Anicius.
Strange how merchandise keeps being lost in the frontier. Next time you do business, don't bring a small platoon with you. I don't want people asking why there's a party in the back alley.
Well, for some reason, my scouts last night disappeared.
And on that cue,
Your scouts what?
Chiyako and the gang are gonna come out from all angles. She's going to rub her throat a little before, saying, "We have you surrounded. Drop your weapons. Put your hands in the air. Otherwise things are going to get nasty."
Alright, so the success of the scouting and the planting is now going to influence the difficulty of your roll to intimidate them into submission. So I'm going to need a willpower and might roll out of you.
Not very good. That is a 3.
I take it you don't want to
I
reroll
would like
that.
to use a fabula point.
Be fabulous.
Yes. A 9. That is much better.
You tower over them, you project. They see this imposing figure with a squad of well-armed individuals arrayed around them. At that point, some of them book it, but in doing so, they hit the grenades that you planted. And these were stun grenades, not lethal grenades, as I recall.
That's correct.
In which case, in their attempt to flee, they go right into your trap, and they are knocked out. Those who aren't lay down their weapons and surrender. Anicius is looking around going, "What do I hire you people for?" He looks over at you, Petra. "Could you clear the way, please?"
You're kidding, right?
So much for veterans.
That's a host sister there, and those are her troops. I'm not paid to die. I'm paid to protect you, but I'm not paid to die.
I assume Chiyako is grinning evilly as Petra says this.
Very much, as she waggles a finger at them.
So at that point, Anicius is just like, fine, I surrender.
Good boy. But if you want to run, I'm happy to chase.
He looks very confused for a second. Is it at that point that one of the auxiliaries also drags Alyssa out?
Alyssa just, the moment the guns are drawn, she just puts her hands up and surrenders herself to the arrest.
Well, on that happy note, you have a gaggle of arrestees that you then cart off to the ship. Yay!
Chiyako's gonna carry all of the unconscious ones and let the others just walk, those that surrendered.
Those who are walking are suitably cowed by your demonstration of physical superiority. And as this was going on, Mazadrakon was also being brought in by some of the other aerials that you had sent out. So at the end of this, you now have Mazadrakon and Anicius in holding cells, while the rest are in a more bulk form of brig. How do you proceed from here?
Petra is standing there as everybody winds down from the raid, and she looks over at Alyssa. This is your turf.
Apparently.
I like doing the talking. Let's do the talking.
Someone who claims to not like talking, you certainly have feedback at every moment.
It's not talking, that's feedback.
I like it when we play good sister, bad sister, crazy sister.
Don't do that.
You know, that's not a bad idea.
I disagree wholly. We'll start with Mazda and move on.
She's in her holding cell at a small table, and she is noticeably calm.
So,
So,
care to explain why a small store operator is involved in coordinating illegal gun sales?
because it makes money? I've never been one for the industrial life, but here I am on this planet, so I had to carve out a niche for myself.
Fair enough. So you confess to the crime.
I'm not going to try to lie or equivocate to members of the Queen's finest.
Well, that's nice. Does mean you're in a lot of trouble.
In my experience, troubles come and go, but the fact that it was Sisters of the Host that came and took me down will do wonders for my business in the long run.
Long run, you're going to be in prison. These are
What do you
very
want?
serious charges.
Gun running is not without its risks and not without its possible penalties, but it's
As well as conspiracy, bribing a queendom soldier. That's before we get into the other various materials that you were spotted in your shop during your arrest.
It'll be an interesting challenge, I admit, but I don't bode you any ill will. It's strange that the Sisters of the Host were involved in taking me down. I'm not that big a threat. In fact, I'm practically small time. What are you doing here that someone like me is on your sensors?
Illegally buying property of the queendom on a ship that has sisters on it automatically makes it something under their interest.
That is an interesting spin, I'll admit.
That being said, you are correct. You are not the focus. You just happen to get in the way.
Can I be correct in thinking if I help, it'll lessen the impact?
While understating a willingness to assist in other investigations would likely make a judge slightly more lenient, or at least willing to perceive an individual's potential and redemption, yes.
I'm going to need that in writing, dear.
Tell me, how well do you think Anicius is going to keep his mouth shut?
He's not bad at business, I'll give him that, but he's more fragile than his ego would let him admit.
If that's the case, then the question you need to be asking yourself is, do you want to get your testimony ahead of his, or do you want him to get his testimony ahead of yours?
I do enjoy setting the story, she says.
Then set the story.
Anicius buys from me from time to time. He also sells to me from time to time. Nothing too dramatic there. Then again, I don't know exactly what you want. So...
He has connections, correct?
Oh yes, he's a fixer of skilled ability.
Mm-hmm. Who does he fix for?
Oh, clients come to him wanting to hire individuals for mercenary work, thefts, maybe the occasional bit of muscle work. He's a consummate middleman. He finds the labor, and he has the labor meet the client's needs.
So he mostly acts as a connection between clients and various mercenary.
Correct. Less danger to him.
I see. Where do you come into this?
I guess you could say I'm the commissary or the quartermaster. The groups need equipment. I can either get the equipment for them or point them in the direction of where they can get their equipment.
And if a group wishes to sell some plunder, is that also through you?
To an extent. As I said, I'm not that big of a fish, and I keep it that way. If you get too big for yourself, things inevitably go wrong. But again, if I can't fence it, I can tell them who can.
One of his clients is the Void Dragons, correct?
The Knuckleheads, yes.
What have they been up to recently?
Well, I heard tell they ran afoul of some aliens and some host sisters.
Oh my. Curious.
And you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
Why I'm asking questions.
She gives you a small wink. At the moment, from what I hear with the Void Dragons, those who weren't captured by the authorities are currently seeking to rebuild. Leading up to that, they had done a job that they were introduced to via Anicius. Beyond that, I don't really know.
You don't know this individual that hired them?
No, that wasn't through me. But Anicius isn't above giving up a client if he thinks it could save his skin.
He doesn't seem the type to hold on to much loyalty.
Unlike me, I'm a very loyal subject of the Queendom.
Indeed.
Oh, to be sure, I donate semi-regularly to the Queendom military and other associated bodies.
Do you now?
I am a criminal, but I am the Queendom's criminal.
I see. Thank you for the answers. I will likely be back with further questions once we're done checking in on the rest of your conspirators.
I'll be here, dearie.
Yes, you will. Alyssa will leave.
While the interrogation is going on, what are Chiyako and Petra doing?
So, Chiyako is listening in over the intercom, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll go in during the interrogation to listen in as well. I pull out a pack of cards and kind of say quietly, Thrones and Knights?
Yeah, I'll play.
An honest game this time?
I'm always honest.
We don't have anything better to do while this is going on. So Petra deals the cards and we start playing. At the point that Alyssa gets Maza to flip on Anicius, when she says something, something to the effect of, do you want me the one to tell the story or should he? And Petra's like, wait for it. And then Maza flips and Petra just laughs. She said, that was good. Don't tell Alyssa, but that was well done. That was tactically sound.
I would have started stabbing a long time ago.
I would have just shot him at the meat, but, hey, wait a second. Give me that. And Petra reaches forward and grabs Chiyako's hand, flips it over, and pulls another queen out of her sleeve.
Oh, come on.
Every time you do this.
And
If you weren't the only other person on the ship willing to play with me, I wouldn't really play.
And on that happy note, back over to Alyssa. You head into Anisis's cell.
Yep.
He's in there. He's fidgeting a little bit, but he's trying to keep an air of composure. You enter the room.
Sit down.
You sit, but even sitting, you still loom over him. He looks up at you. A little bit of sweat around the edges.
You're, Anisius?
That's what my mom always called me.
So, Anisius, I got some bad news.
What's that?
Drakon basically gave up everything she has on you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. You're fine with this?
I'm confused more than anything else. I was doing some perfectly legitimate business, and suddenly some warrior women out of legend come storming down the hall. Don't you esteemed warriors go and protect the queendom? What am I to you exactly?
Well, first of all, I feel the need to inform you that Sister Chiyako is not a legend. She is a very real person who exists. Second, just to confirm things, you are not a Queendom military quartermaster, correct?
No.
You are not a authorized weapons merchant in the Queendom, correct?
Authorization is a matter of possession.
Do you possess the license?
Roll me willpower and intellect.
Insight, but yes. Any modifiers?
I'll give you a +1 because of your previous conversation with Masa. Oh, very nice. 16.
That's pretty good. 16, yeah.
You stare down at him, your eyes meeting his, a ferocity in your gaze that he could only hope to match if he lived at least another 20 to 40 years. And he goes, I admit, I lost the paperwork.
So you don't have the paperwork.
No.
Then you are not an authorized merchant.
Sure, why not?
So why were you buying weapons that were being stored on a Queendom vessel?
Maybe because one of your loyal little Queendom grunts wanted to sell them.
Oh, so you confess to being a part of a conspiracy.
I feel like you're misusing that word. This is hardly a scale for conspiracy, don't you think? I'm just a guy buying some guns.
Which is a crime if you are not legally authorized to do that. And you have confessed you are not currently legally authorized to do that.
Alright, I know how this goes. I'm small time. I get that, and I'll admit that. I mean, I want to be bigger, but you gotta start somewhere, right? What do you want exactly?
What I want is justice. What I currently have is a small fish. Now, as I said, Drakon has basically given me everything I need to pretty sufficiently make sure that you are going to go away for prison for quite a while. Quite a long while.
You still haven't told me what you want. You say justice, but let's be frank, justice is nebulous.
To you, perhaps. But that's not what matters. What matters is you are a fixer, correct?
That is my main income, yes.
Which means you are often used as a conduit for many other parties to commit crimes, correct?
No laws against introducing people to each other.
So here is the deal I am offering you. Either you hand over every bit of information you know about every criminal activity that you are aware of, so I can put away something a bit larger, or I drop a very small fish into a very large prison.
Roll me willpower and willpower. And you got an 11. Okay, look, you're obviously looking for something specific. I can give you my data, sure. But how about this? You let me get off planet, and I'll narrow down your search for you.
Do I need to remind you what I told you at the start of this conversation?
But I also know there's something specific you want, and you think I know it. So let me get off planet. No, none of my ill-gotten gains with me. I'll narrow down your search.
Mazda Drakon already gave up everything she has on you. I've already narrowed down the search.
Then why do you need my data?
Because this is your opportunity to give me something more. All you are offering me is nothing. Is there something I don't know about that I should?
Hey, I just want to get out of this with my skin intact, alright?
Apparently not enough to be willing to negotiate.
Okay, say I do give you all my data. What, I go to a smaller prison as opposed to a bigger prison?
Say, hypothetically, there is a criminal conspiracy that has involved multiple deaths on a colony, an attempted genocide of a non-human species, and may be involved in what appears to be illegal bio-manipulations of innocent kidnapped victims. How serious do you think that charge would be?
Well, who cares about aliens, but bioengineering?
You think that argument's going to get you away, is going to win you sympathy with a queendom judge?
What do we care about aliens? But,
Fine.
Again, you haven't told me what you're going to give me.
I want proof that you're not involved. Also, I can't help but notice you're being so quick to dismiss the death of aliens. You seem to have miss me stating that multiple human colonists were killed as part of that incident.
Sorry, it just seems weird it stood out.
To be honest, you're doing a fantastic job of making me sympathetic and want to believe and feel invested in your innocence. For an individual who's supposed to be good at making deals, you seem to be quite inadequate at it. So far, all you've done is insult me enough that I honestly don't want anything you offer.
But you keep saying, we'll go easy on you. You haven't told me what that looks like.
It looks like us not charging you for a mass attack on a colony.
There we go. Okay. People come to me to hire muscle for them. I hire muscle for them. What they do with that muscle, I'm not directly tied to.
But
however,
you handle their business.
However, since you've been so very forthright, I'm willing to give you... How about this?
Let me make it clear. That initial offer was entirely an offer to see if you are willing to work with us. You've clearly shown you are not, unless you get something in favor. So now, this negotiation has become hostile. You need to offer me something that makes it worth my time.
If I knew who you were trying to find.
What did the Void Dragons get?
Okay, there we go. That's something. Void Dragons were hired to do a thing on a colony world. That connects. That makes sense. They were supposed to retrieve something, right?
Yes, allegedly. We don't know because their leader transformed into a strange mutant to try to kill us.
That makes sense too. The Void Dragon who showed up with the goods was looking a bit peaky.
Yes.
Okay, that means you're looking for the guy who hired them. Okay, I can tell you that much. A guy by the name of Celadon Maris. Alright?
Where is he?
Haven't seen him since the transfer.
Do you know if he's on the planet?
If I were to hazard a guess, probably. He just got this weird look in his eye when he got the goods, and they walked off.
One final question. What do you know about strange monsters that travel underground and have been ambushing people in back alleys?
I heard some people disappearing and reappearing. Don't know the specifics of it myself. I always have some armed company, if you know what I mean. But Celadon, we met at the Bay previously. The Void Dragon courier was looking not great, as I said. Presented it to him. He took it, and then they both walked off together. That was weird.
That is odd.
And the last time I saw him was at that hangar.
Well, thank you for your testimony. There will be future interviews.
Great.
Pray the consequences of this artifact you were involved in smuggling doesn't kill too many people.
Don't know anything about it killing people.
Alyssa shall leave.
You exit out and you see Petra and Chiyako playing cards and having a very secretive conversation.
Just listening to you not even break a sweat with this guy.
You were pretty amazing.
And he was pretty inept, let's be fair.
Very.
He's simply a man who has deeply, deeply misunderstood the level of leverage he has. Which goes back to my question, what are you doing?
Playing cards.
Eavesdropping.
That too.
Of course. Then I don't need to brief you.
Chiyako had an idea.
Oh?
I'd like to hack into his tech. See what little gold nuggets are in there.
Go ahead. We seized it as evidence. Do what you want with it.
That's going to be an inside and insight roll, Chiyako.
Excellent rolls I'm actually good at.
Oh, dang.
Critical success with an 18.
Alright, first off, how do you want to spend your opportunity?
Unmask might be appropriate.
That sounds good.
Wanting to unmask Anisius?
Or anyone related to him
Or
whose agenda is still hidden.
The person that currently has our little idol thing
The artifact?
that melts flesh with tech.
You take his codex, you hook up to it. This guy has some decent firewalls and protections on his device, but you're just like, oh, hot knife through butter on that thing. And you get an account of all his dealings, money he's made, money he's spent, a list of his frequent clients, and you actually get some footage of when the courier came and delivered the artifact to Anicius' client. Anicius, thinking this might be useful later, apparently set up some cameras to record the exchange. You're watching the footage, and I assume you're sharing this with Petra and Alyssa.
Of course.
You see Celadon Maris. He is... The way he holds himself, you'd almost think he was military, but obviously would not be an official military act, so that seems odd to you. However, the courier, delivering the item, does not look well, bit gaunt, sunken eyes, no warped flesh that you see, but you do know that the artifact is capable of keeping things subtle, at least from what you've seen with Hildy, so maybe this is something like that. However, when the courier opens the container that the artifact piece was in, you see Celadon look at it, get something of a glazed look in his eyes, for you hear him say on the footage, "This is acceptable. It is time to begin." And as he says that, the pitch of his voice changes oddly. But then he closes the device, and then he heads off deeper into the bay, followed by the courier. And from what you two recall being in the bay in question, he's heading straight in the direction where that odd feeling came from.
Well, we have a name and a face.
You have that.
Chiyako still has the info from the tablet she hacked when they had their initial meeting with the council, yes?
Yes.
She would like to do some comparisons, such as potentially matching faces or names between the two.
Nothing direct. Most of Anicius' clients are off-worlders. There is the occasional bit of contracting with someone who's a few steps down from the higher-ups on a cache, but he doesn't seem to deal with them directly overly much.
I was kind of hoping there was a connection to the council, because Yarek's dad sure seemed to know what was happening to Hildy.
I mean, I'm okay with taking them down too.
Well, I would normally agree. It wouldn't do us any good to take down a government system and leave it open for potential chaos.
Yeah, purge the top, send some specialists, it'd be taken care of.
So what do you wish to do from here? Do you want to investigate the bay?
That seems to be our strongest lead.
I'm thinking we should go to this next bit in our true forms so we can carry our real weapons with us.
Probably.
So, wearing no disguise, you head to the Smuggler's Bay. You get there quickly enough. I assume you take a route that doesn't involve people overly much, and what people are there quickly get out of your way. As you arrive at the bay, no one is there. Maybe someone heard you coming, maybe somebody heard about Anicius and Maza getting taken, so you have the bay to yourself. That same unpleasant feeling is emanating from the back of the bay. You head back there, and as you are looking around, you find what appears to be a sealed door. Do you attempt to open the door?
When you say the door is sealed, do you mean like the door controls, it's like a sliding door and the motor's not working? Do you mean like someone took a blowtorch to it and sealed it?
The door panels are not working, and it does look like it's been blowtorched.
This is...
Relatively recently, it looks like, actually.
This is...
Petra
concerning.
Petra just reaches into her utility carry, and she's going to spend a couple gear points and pull out some shaped charges and just start putting them on the door.
That's quick and easy enough, especially with your experience in such matters. A few minutes later, you press the button setting off the charge, and the door explodes, pieces going everywhere. Chiyako, as this happens, you just feel a wave of magic practically slap you in the face.
She takes a step back, and then another, shaking her head. Oh, that aura is so strong. It's definitely in there.
Is Petra blunt enough that she wouldn't really feel this much at all?
To you, the same feeling of being off is still present.
Why are you so affected by this, Chiyako? She says as Petra says as she points her Clarabella into the door, or at the door opening.
It could be any number of reasons.
I suspect it has to do with the fact that it was the mural that we found near the storage of this artifact included a picture of
A marshal of the Silent Luminaries.
yes, Silent Luminaries. Sorry, I forgot your host name. Silent
It's
Luminaries.
okay, I'm totally not offended by it.
There was a mural of the art depicted Silent Luminaries, so I suspect there may be a history that ties our sister here to this artifact, if by legacy.
Very possibly. I'm surprised such a connection goes so deep, though.
As you step forward, two things happen. First off, you get an emergency call. It's Jax. Are you ladies there?
Yes. What is it, Jax?
On his end, you hear a bustling of activity, some groans of what sounds to be wounded people, and he says, Hildy is gone, and she has Yarick.
What happened?
Okay, so I was walking the kid around the ship when, I don't know, Hildy, but looking different, just kind of stormed through, snatched him, and stormed out.
Well, the change was activated.
Looks like it.
And as you have that realization, the second thing happens. And that is the fact that as you stepped through, you hear a click and a beep, 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 beep sound.
Of course, it's a trap.
And you look around you, Petra, with your eye, you spot what appears to be a bomb that's getting ready to go off. And on that note, that is where we shall end it.
Very nice.
Wahahahahahaha.
Mwahahaha.
Well, subjects and players, I hope you all enjoyed. We'll see what happens to our intrepid heroes next time as they deal with a bomb, a mutant mother on the run, and who knows what else. So, fare thee well, subjects. Please do the like and subscribe thing to help the Queendom grow. And goodbye. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.